Our next speaker is somebody who also has a show on our network, Talk America Radio, at talkamericaradio.us. Her name is Suzanne Shattuck. Suzanne has experience in grassroots activism, writing, public speaking, and producing several radio shows, actually. We had the pleasure of working with her. Actually, initially, I think we met here at the Tea Party Convention. We were with her at CPAC and also at various Tea Party organization meetings in Savannah, Georgia. Her weekly show, Wide Awake with Suzanne Shattuck, again, as I said, is heard on our Talk America Radio network. Her Facebook videos go viral. She rants and educates the masses from her car or sitting in her home office. She's a popular guest on numerous conservative talk shows, including Cowboy Logic Radio, and a multitude of topics that she focuses on, especially, though, the favorite of hers is Islam. Suzanne is co-founder of Part of the Solution Learning, which is an emergency preparedness training program for organizations and individuals who desire to be a little more self-reliant. She is the mother of 4 grown children. She currently works full-time as a nurse in the emergency department, so she gets around there. She's got a wealth of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our colleague, Suzanne Shattuck.
Good morning. I don't know about you, but I am wanting to stay in the red pill world here. And I don't want to go back to the blue pill world that I normally work in, and you'll kind of understand that as I speak. But thank you, Joe Dugan and Jerry McDaniel and all those volunteers that helped put this together, because I think since I've been in grassroots movement, I've met the most amazing people, amazing patriots. I'm just honored to be speaking to you all today. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And I know you all are well aware, obviously, especially after this weekend, of the dangerous issues that are facing our country. And with each one of these exceptional speakers that gets up, and I would go as far to say that many of them should be advising our president. And yet, it speaks volumes, and thank you so much for doing the live stream, but it speaks volumes that we don't have mainstream media here covering this. And because they do not want, obviously we know, they do not want the truth out there. So who am I to be speaking among all these speakers? Because I really, if you think about it, I am a blue-collar worker. I am a nurse. I punch the clock to get a paycheck. And but I do want to share from my heart today. As a nurse, I think just a layman's perspective, I only have 3 points. One of those is the situation of our country. Number 2, the problem. And number 3, part of the solution. The problem, I think, that we're facing, I mean, there's all kinds of things we've heard and even picked up. You know, we are in wars, I think all different kinds of wars, but not conventional wars yet. And one of the ones I think we're in the middle of is a cultural war. It started in the 60s, and it's been raging ever since. And I think that it has untold numbers of casualties. But before I tell you where those casualties are, I will say that since that cultural revolution, I think the Americans have gotten weaker in principle in general. I think kids have gotten so much more dependent on their parents, living, you know, with their parents till they're in their 30s. And I think we all have gotten more dependent on complex systems that are vulnerable and unsustainable. I mean, the internet, if that goes down, I mean, we are so dependent, I cannot even explain to you, the hospitals, how dependent we are on that internet. So I want to talk about the casualties. And one thing I just want to stop and say is, if you stop and look around this room, who is missing in this room? Anybody want to? Young people, absolutely. I think this cultural war has untold numbers of casualties on the young people. And I think specifically who is seeing that, and I think it happens in all different socioeconomic classes, but I think who's specifically seeing that are our law enforcement, first responders, and definitely those in the emergency department. So what I want to share with you is a vision, and it reminds me, stay with me because you'll understand, but it reminds me of a scene in my favorite Christmas movie, which is A Christmas Carol. And in it, there's the ghost of Christmas Present. He's about 10 foot tall. He opens his robes and he reveals ignorance and want. And they are two little children, sickly, destitute children. And it's just to give Scrooge a picture of all these untold numbers of destitute and poor. And what I'm bringing you today is a picture of the America's ignorance and want. They are not in want of material needs. Excuse me while I take a drink. I get a little nervous. But I would say they are utterly desolate when it comes to values, to direction, and to just worth. And so on any given shift, I see different levels of acuity in the emergency room. And but every shift, I will see a sprinkling of either people with abscesses from where they're injecting themselves with all kind of drugs and chemicals, whatever they can get their hands on that will, get them some kind of high to escape reality. And then you will see, I see probably definitely all ages, but specifically in the younger people, in the prime of their age, prime age, and they have teeth that are rotted to the gums from using meth. This is very prevalent where I work. Drug overdoses, suicidal ideations, homicidal ideations, people that are narcotic-seeking manipulators, those that abuse the system, and those who have been abused. And then you have these, most of them come in with this attitude of because I need, therefore. Can y'all hear me if I speak up? Okay. They have this entitlement mentality, and it is I think it's a crippling disease. And so I never leave work without going over in my mind, just really shaking my head, saying, what has happened to America? What is happening to Americans? And you all have probably come up with the answer already, but in essence, I believe that they have no core values. They have lost their values, or they were never instilled in the first place. Sorry. But then I just started thinking, when I grew up, I just started thinking about values, which leads me to, number two. The problem is they have no core values, those core American values. And when I grew up on a farm. My parents taught me to honor God, respect authority, the importance of hard work, and also to be proud of my American heritage. And that was not only taught by my parents, my grandparents, extended family members, they all reinforced those values. And even my coaches, and believe it or not, the TV shows I watched reinforced those values. I grew up on, watching the Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, and Andy Griffith. And so I took those values with me, and when I grew up, I married a military officer, and we had 4 children, and we decided, we're going to instill those same values in our children. And then we started noticing, as they were growing older, the schools weren't necessarily reinforcing those values, and obviously Hollywood wasn't. So, we decided, I think I'm going to homeschool my kids, not because I wanted to, but because it was so important to instill those values in a young age. And when you look at a samurai warrior, they are molded from a young age. You cannot make a samurai warrior later on in life. And I think we all know we need warriors in our world today, in our country. And so I definitely did not feel qualified to do it, but I did it because we wanted our kids to have those values. So after that, kids grew up, they became independent and still hold on to those values. And as they got independent in those values, I started working grassroots arena and with, speaking out about the Islamic movement, because I saw that as something that also was affecting our culture. You have these influence operations going on with the Muslim Brotherhood per se, with our legislators and with clergymen. So it had gotten into the church. and that was deeply affecting our culture. I started at that time also treating refugees and immigrants. And I was seeing the fact, I mean, needing translators in this one procedural unit I was in, needing translators every day. And I'm not talking Spanish. There's just an array of different languages. And I'm thinking all this influx of these patients coming in that are immigrants and refugees, and our American citizens are being put last. And so I had the opportunity, Don and Donna giving me an opportunity to do a radio show. Kevin Jackson gave me opportunity to write for his website. And Ed Roberts, also another radio show. And I started doing all this stuff, still while doing the emergency room. And I think it just got to be, I'm just being honest, it got to be so heavy. All this depressing stuff. And I'm just like, I had to step back and reevaluate my life. And I said, you know, am I doing any good? Am I moving the needle at all on these issues? And I had to be honest, and I said, you know, I'm not. And what was even more frustrating was seeing organizations that were, it seemed like going at this, you know, this frontal assault on these huge, supposedly huge enemies. And it just didn't seem like it was getting the national attention it should be getting. And as you know, as we're sitting here this weekend and we're hearing brief after brief of how serious the things that we were facing, Gordon Chang talking about, you know, the war, the possible war. And I just started, like I said, just reevaluate. And at that time, I had a dear friend. We talked a ton about all kinds of current events. And we said, you know what? I think we need to get prepared. I think we need to be prepared because I believe that we're going into some rough times. I don't see how we come out of all of this unscathed. And so as we started to prepare, we said, you know what? I'd like to teach other people to be prepared. And especially, I think patriots should be because we're so well informed about what's going on. So anyway, that's the part of the solution is to embrace rugged self-reliance. And you know, go back to your faith, go back to those core values and instill those into your children young, into your grandchildren, because that is what's going to hold us together. That is what is going to, you know, when you have those core values, and I think Claire Lopez mentioned it yesterday, you know, you won't be deceived by all the lies and the propaganda that's being put out there by the media, the universities, even government, you know, government policies are not, you know, supporting those traditional values. So anyway, that is my new perspective. And I believe if we all do those things, if we are prepared for emergencies, prepared for what, you know, could be a very rough time ahead, that we will be able to stand together. We won't be deceived. We will be bold, and we will not only survive, but I think we'll be back on the path to greatness. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning.
Always helps to have a sound guy helping you out. You know what you're doing is it's hitting my head.
You're good.
I'm good. Okay. We have a VIP person here who talked to me yesterday by the name of John Nagel. John, are you here? Oh, okay, here he is. All right. John brought this to my attention. He looked up on Ancestry.com what Schumer means. So I assume it's vetted because it's on Ancestry.com. Schumer is Middle to Low German, and it means good for nothing vagabond. Thank you, John, for that.